So this is my one reference to Twitter. I'm really sorry, LinkedIn. Okay. Can everybody take out your phone, go to davislive.com really quick? And what that's going to do is say hello to me, and I will follow up with you afterwards, and I'll pick a couple of you to grab a copy of my book as well. And so it's davislive.com. My book is called New Business Networking. It came out last May, and it's about my experiences and other examples of people and stories of networking, both online and offline. It's obviously extremely important that we are networking offline as well, in the real world, or in person anyway. And we're here today to do that. I hope everybody is coming out for a beer after this. It's hard to be like the one before the beer, so stay with me here. We're almost there, I swear. So let's talk about networking and my own experiences. I'm going to share some of my own stories, but I want them to inspire you to think about some of the stuff that you may want to do for yourselves. When it comes to networking, what I think about is that it's about passion first, right? It's about following the passion, the things that you're most interested in, and connecting with like-minded people who share similar interests and similar passions. And, you know, we're all here, we're all, you know, either working or looking for work, whatever, but the point is that we have passions in our own careers. But even beyond that, think about the hobbies, the things you're interested in. I mean, it's the best thing in the world when your hobby and the stuff that you love to do becomes your career, or becomes your startup, or becomes your employer, or whatever, right? So those are examples of following your passion. I have no idea why I chose this image, but ice cream, I mean, who's not passionate about ice cream, right? So when I think of a couple guys who, you know, I'm a big geek, I'm big in technology, and so a lot of these examples are geeky. So if you don't recognize those two, that's Bill Gates and Paul Allen, obviously founders of Microsoft. And they met at a basic programming meetup many moons ago, you know, and one thing led to another. Long story short, little company named Microsoft was born. Another couple guys that you may be familiar with. Anybody recognize these guys? Yeah, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Again, two guys met at a Hewlett-Packard lecture, and one thing led to another. a few things led to that little device in your pocket, probably. So, but they met at these events. And what I want you to be thinking about as I'm talking about this stuff is that you're all here today meeting one another. If you haven't during the breaks, you have a great opportunity after this too. And you have all been here. What I love about single track conferences like this is that you've all experienced the same speakers, the same content. You all have great stuff to talk about. You already have icebreakers. You already have stuff to talk about. But I'll talk more about that kind of thing. But again, these two guys, I mean, had they not met, right? And those two guys. And these two guys, you know, Siegfried and Roy, everybody. Look at them. You know, famous Las Vegas magicians. Look at those tans. Look at that tiger. That's ridiculous, but I love them. But again, you know, two guys, they met performing magic on a cruise ship. One thing led to another, and, you know, they're, you know, a household name. Even with the kids. I just did a keynote at NTC the other night, and I used this slide, and I was wondering, like, are they going to get it? And I know they're ridiculous looking, so maybe that's how they got the laugh. But hopefully they knew who Siegfried and Roy are. Passions lead to paths. And what I'm talking about here is following the passions, the things that you're most interested in, even beyond your business, as I said before, that can lead to paths that take you on to different directions in your own careers and in your own lives that you may not have anticipated. I think of my own passions, you know, early on technology, as I got older, marketing, the two mix very nicely, but entertainment, music, and travel. In 1998, actually even before that, I traveled to this little town in Ireland. It's Galway. Anybody been to Galway by any chance? Whoa, a lot of you. Look at all you guys. So you're going to be at the pub after, I know that. Yeah, so I moved to Galway in 98 from Toronto, where I'm from originally. And I met a girl. And where is she? Uh-oh, skipping ahead. There she is. I have no idea how I impressed her, especially with that look. This is before digital photography, so you know that this is what we had back then. So not a lot of photos captured, but at least I have one there. And I met this girl, Heather. And, because of this passion of travel and going out and just getting out of my comfort zone, going out to a pub by myself, I met this girl, and years later she became my wife. And of course, my parents are proud of me. I'm a Delaney, brought home a nice Irish girl from Ireland. Not quite. She's actually from Jackson, Tennessee. Right. Crazy, right? So that's how a guy from Toronto ends up living in this beautiful city of Nashville, Tennessee, right? And I've never looked back. I absolutely love this city. I love the culture here. I love the people here. I mean, everything about Nashville is amazing, and I'm so thrilled to be here. And it's just such an incredible community here. Everybody is so warm and welcoming, and that certainly helps when you're networking and knocking on doors, which is what I did. So when we talk about networking, we think about how it's a two-way street. This is something really important because the term networking itself sort of has negative connotations associated with it. From these kind of like high-pressure events where you've got to speed date, or some of them are good, but some of them are not. And so networking sort of got this negative connotation to it. These high-pressure events, kind of used car salesmen trying to shove business cards in your face and things like that. With all due respect to used car salesmen, of course. But networking is a two-way street. And what I mean by that is that you need to go out of your way to help people before you ever ask for anything in return. A lot of people jump on social networks or they go to events and they just sell, and they're not selling much. And it's because they're just being really pushy. You've got to create the network first, right? Build it before you actually need it. I mentioned I talked to MTSU the other night, and that's a big message I have for students. Build your networks now so that when you're graduating, you have shoulders to tap. You have people to give you an introduction into maybe a company that you can at least go and arrange an informational meeting, that kind of thing, which will lead to a job. So I want to talk about events, attending events, organizing events, and the important point about events. As I said before, you are here today. You are sharing the same experience. So you have great things to talk about afterwards. At least I hope you do. So the first point about events, obviously you found this one today, so good job, is to find events. And some great sources for this are obviously the NTC, that's a given, right? LinkedIn groups, the groups that you belong to in LinkedIn often have events associated, and you can find out more about those in those groups. Eventbrite, a lot of people think of Eventbrite as an alternative ticket, it is an alternative ticket seller to like Ticketmaster or something, where you can just create your own event and use it to provide tickets. But what a lot of people don't realize is that if you go to eventbrite.com, you can put in your zip code and find events taking place around you today or tomorrow, or in the city that you're traveling to next week. Meetup.com, it's a little older now, but I talk about passions, and I'll talk a little bit about podcasting and some of my love for podcasting. But when I moved to Nashville from Toronto, I didn't know anybody here. And as a podcaster, I started podcasting in 2005. And so I've always been very passionate about podcasting, So I looked up on meetup.com and I found the Nashville Podcasters Meetup. And so you can go up to meetup.com, create your own meetup, or find ones. You'd be amazed. Kelly Stewart here in Nashville has the Nashville Hikers Group. The thing's been around for a few years. He's at like 5 or maybe even 10,000 members now. It's insane. Just from a self-organized meetup, And these are not things that cost money to set up. It's not hard to do. So the examples that I give you today, I want to inspire you to maybe think about how you could do something, or at least attend events, like this one today. Anybody know Wanna-Do? Awesome, that's great. So Wanna-Do is an awesome little startup here in Nashville. I just ran into Steven today, this morning. But Wanna-Do have an app. It's a free app, and you can find like a local listing events in Nashville. And there's everything from like business events, tech events, nonprofit events, all sorts of music, entertainment. Yeah, music, go figure. In this town, really? But Wanna-Do is a fantastic app worth taking a look at to find different events. So, you have some sources to find other events to attend. But going to events is not always an easy thing, right? Some of you probably today had a hard time convincing yourself, I gotta go, right? Even though we know this event is amazing. Scott Stratton, if you're on Twitter, you can say hello to Unmarketing. Tell him I said hi. Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, come on. Guy's like a hero of mine. The Liger. But yeah, going in cold to a networking event is like showing up for a dance at a high school you just transferred to, right? What a great quote. It's not easy to go to an event when you don't know anybody there. It's not easy at all. And it's especially not easy if you're more introverted or just shy, but either way, it's not easy. Even the biggest extrovert still has a hard time going to an event by themselves for the first time. So I want to talk about some tips on how best to do this. The first, and by the way, I love this guy. He's just like, yeah, love that guy. But who are you, what do you do, and why are you attending this event? These are questions to ask yourself, especially if you have a hard time answering these questions. But practice these questions in front of a mirror in your bathroom at home, preferably when your family, that they're not home because they're going to think you've lost it. But just by practicing answering these questions, it'll make it easier. It'll make them roll off the tongue when you actually get asked this question at events. And especially that last question, why are you attending this event? By asking yourself this question, you'll actually find that you answer the question and really start to think about, why am I going to this event? Sometimes we go to so many networking events or conferences and things, we tend to forget why it is exactly that we're going. We know we're supposed to be there. We know our bosses told us to be there or bought us a ticket or whatever. But why exactly are we going? And just by answering this out loud in front of a mirror or to yourself quietly, you'll start to think about why. Maybe set some goals. Maybe you think, I got to research who's going to be there maybe. And I'm going to give you some tips on that too. So talk to strangers, right? Tonight, and there's more to this, by the way. Tonight, you have to talk to strangers. Go out of your way to talk to a stranger. Just one stranger. We travel to events, we go to conferences, we go to events, some meetups and things, and we go with the people that we know, right? It's important to go and talk to people that you don't know. It's uncomfortable, it's hard, but I'll tell you, anybody at a networking event with a name badge, standing in a corner by themselves, they didn't come in off the street just to stand by themselves and feel terrible, right? They are there to meet people. So that's your opportunity to go over and introduce yourself. On my podcast, I interviewed Hugh Forrest, who's the founder of and the director of South by Southwest Interactive, which is like a huge, massive technology conference in Austin every year. And he said this quote to me, which I feel like getting tattooed on my chest. I probably will not get this tattooed on my chest, just so it's clear. But surrender to serendipity. A lot of times you'll go to a conference, you'll go to an event, and you get swept up. And I think you may have had this happen to you at an event. But say you're in line during the break for the bathroom and you start talking to somebody, or you're in line at the bar after, or whatever. You may skip out on the next session, thankfully you're all here, and go and talk to that person in the hall. And you may strike a business deal. But that's that serendipity that happens at conferences and events. And so, if the feeling is right to go with these people, or go with a person you just met to have a coffee, sit down, do it, And when we're at an event, we need to listen, right? Listen better. So there's a little acronym I want you to look at and think about. And by the way, I will have a link at the end of this. I should have mentioned it at the top. That has a page on my site that has all of the information that I've talked about today. So look interested, right? Yeah, right now, all of you, no. But look interested. When you're talking to someone, look them in the eye, right? Nod in agreement. Look interested in what they are saying to you. Don't ask someone what brings them to this conference or this event, and then just great. Start looking at your phone or over their shoulder for who else is in the room that's more interesting. Oh. Look interested. Involve yourself. That's by nodding, but it's also by saying, oh, really? Wow. So interesting. What happened next? Keep the conversation going. Involve yourself. Stay on topic. The topic is the person you're talking to, by the way. It's not you. My wife sometimes is like, shut up. I have a habit of talking too much sometimes. Stay on topic. Let the person do the bulk of the talking. So ask them follow-up questions to the information they're giving you. What was the transition like from moving from Omaha to Nashville? I don't know. But ask them questions and keep the conversation going. Test your understanding. This is really important, especially to management and clients and your wife or husband. Test your understanding. So if someone says, and the best way to do this is to answer, so what you're saying is. So what you're saying is. So if somebody passes me a box and says, hey, Dave, I need this box cut into 4 pieces and I need it shipped to New York by Monday. I'll say, so what you're saying is you need this box in New York by Monday and you need it cut into 4 pieces. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that's right. What happens by repeating it is they trust you. They believe in you. But also by verbally saying it out loud, it actually helps you recall it. It helps you remember what that direction was. For the record, I've never had to cut a box up into 4 pieces and ship to New York by Monday. I don't know where I get that example from, but there you go. Evaluate the message. If somebody might be confiding in you or opening up to you, evaluate that message. Determine whether it's confidential. Evaluate it, okay? And then neutralize the feelings. And that means, if they say something that's offensive to you, something like, the predators suck, okay, all right, hold on, I got to neutralize the feelings, I'll let it go, If the person is a jerk and says something terrible, the bathrooms are just right there. And you can say, oh, it was really nice to meet you. I got to run to the bathroom. And you run off to the bathroom. It's your exit strategy in a bad situation like that. The worst part about explaining this to people, though, is that on the break or afterwards, you're going to be talking to someone and actually have to go to the bathroom. So you all have permission to go to the bathroom. It's okay. So remember names. This is something we all have a hard time with. Focus on their face. Focus on their facial features. And try to associate their facial features with their name. Try to rhyme it. Try to put 2 and 2 together that way. Ask how they prefer their name to be used. My lanyards sometimes will say David on them. I don't know why, unless my mother registered me for something. But ask how they prefer. So is it David or Dave? Dave? Okay. It helps you remember. Comment on the name in the head. Think about their name. Think about someone else you know with that name. Try to associate them together. And employ their name by using it frequently. That's one that I think most of us know. So, hey, Dave, nice to meet you, Dave. Don't say it too many times in a row and make it sound weird. But even when you're saying goodbye, say, oh, it's a pleasure meeting you, Dave. Try to do that to help you remember that person's name. That's my remote. Oh, yeah. Business cards. You all have business cards, right? I hope. As I said at the top, don't be that person. Don't be that guy that's like handing out business cards to everybody you meet. Hope everybody gets a card, right? It's a waste of paper. You're killing trees. Instead, talk to somebody and get a genuine connection with them, or a reason why you should meet up, or a reason why you should catch up afterwards, right? And then get their card. Ask them for their card. You don't have to have your card ready to go either. You don't have to have your hand in your pocket like as soon as you get their card. Right? You don't have to do that. Because as soon as you have their card, you have their information. They don't need your card. You can follow up with them. Right? A little bonus tip with business cards, take a note on the business card of information about the person you met, maybe what they were wearing or how you should follow up. Just anything to spark your memory afterwards. You should know that, culturally, some cultures do not like this, and so it's important to consider that. Sometimes it's best to use that bathroom break to take the note in there, or at the bar or something in a corner of the room. Maybe not right in front of the person. So that's up to you to decide. But so no time to take. A funny thing with this is I was exhibiting at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, a few years ago, and I saw this guy at his booth, and he's handing out business cards to everybody he met, everybody passing by. And as I walked past his booth later, I saw this pile of business cards behind the booth on the floor. People were like, idiot. All right. You don't need that. You don't need to collect all the business cards, okay? Or hand out all of yours. Yeah, so if you build it, they will come. If you get this many, wow, that's a big success of an event. Look at that. If you build it, they will come, right? And I want to talk about some of the events and ideas around events that you may be able to create for yourself, and some of the stuff just quickly that I've been involved with in Nashville. So when I moved here, and it's a long story, it's in the book if you're interested, but I co-founded Bar Camp Nashville, which was the first sort of unconference technology event here, which brought a lot of people together. This is August '07. And it brought a lot of people together that hadn't met each other in person before, and it was a great event. I'm really proud of it. But, and then I co-founded PodCamp, which is like the sister Unconference. By the way, BarCamp's October 18th. It's absolutely free to attend, so you should think about going if you're interested in technology. And then I co-founded PodCamp. It's sister conference, and they take place at different times of the year. But what I found was after the first BarCamp, you know when you're at a conference like today, and then you go home afterwards, and it's like the end of summer camp, and you're like, oh, man, I miss everybody. That was so much fun. And now you're like back to the grind, and oh, man, right? Well, some of you are laughing more than others. You get what I'm talking about. So I started something called Geek Breakfast. And the idea of Geek Breakfast, these are, by the way, these are free events. I'm not here to sell you anything. But Geek Breakfast started in December 07 after BarCamp. Is that right? December 08? And the idea was just come if you're interested in technology and have breakfast. No strings attached. You pay for your own food. There's no sponsors. There's no speakers. Just come, network, and hang out. And the idea was to keep the momentum going, right? And what happened was somebody came from out of town, and he's like, hey, Dave, how do I have a geek breakfast in my own city? And I'm like, you just invite your geeky friends for breakfast. He's like, yeah, but do you have like a wiki or some sort of page that has that information on it? I'm like, do you really need that? He's like, yeah. So luckily, I had some friends at the table who understood technology. Go figure. Developers, designers, all the hits. And so a couple of friends and I just made geekbreakfast.org. That's a website that you can go and create your own geek breakfast. And there's 3 rules of geek breakfast I won't bore you with, but it's kind of like Fight Club. You don't actually have to fight, don't worry. But the thing with Geek Breakfast that was amazing is we made the website so that others can create their own Geek Breakfast very easily. Just click a couple buttons. And next thing I knew, there was like Geek Breakfast popping up across the US. And then in Canada. And then I'll stop with the sound effects. And then in, it's kind of annoying. And then in South Africa and Australia. And it all started here in Nashville with our little Geek Breakfast, which was so cool. And, friends are like, man, so how much money are you making from this? And I'm like, well, yeah, nothing. Yeah, not very smart, but oh well. So then I started something called Nash Cocktail, which I joke it's like Geek Breakfast, but with booze. A lot of people who wanted to come to Geek Breakfast couldn't make it so early in the morning. So I created this, but it's more about social media. And the thing with Nash Cocktail, it's once a month as well. It does have sponsors, but again, it's free to attend. It's a networking group. And the reason why I'm telling you guys about this is not to sell this as a thing that you have to come to, although it would be wonderful if you did. But they're just examples of simple things. They were not hard for me to create. But it was the amazing community who came out to them and who helped spread the word and make these things spread. Nash Cocktail is now 4 years old. Turned 4 in July. And then every Christmas, I team Geek Breakfast. I put Geek Breakfast against Nash Cocktail. Already? Oh my gosh. Geek Breakfast against Nash Cocktail to battle it out, to raise food for Second Harvest. And so it's a fun little thing that we just give back to the community. So I'll go a little faster now. When I was with Griffin Technology, and I ran social media for Griffin, and we had this crazy idea, and I wanted to do a road trip, like a social media road trip. And this is a whole nother presentation I could do another time. But the long and the short of it was that I planned meetups. We drove 2,500 miles from Nashville to Las Vegas in a 1972 VW bus that we restored ourselves after hours at work. And I had meetups in every market along the way, over 6 different markets, Austin, New Orleans, doesn't matter. But 6 cities. And all our customers and friends came out and started networking with us, and some of them are still friends today. So it's like taking your company on the road and actually meeting your customers face to face. It was huge. So one of the biggest mistakes we make with networking is we don't follow up, right? We get home and we let the business cards sit and collect dust, and then we forget who the people are on the business cards. We're all guilty of it, right? Follow up. LinkedIn, have you heard of it? Everybody needs a profile. I think that's a given at this point, right? Make sure your headshot, you have a nice face. You have a nice face. You have a nice face. You have nice faces. Make sure you have a nice headshot. You know, there's some great photographers here. Maybe you can hire them if you don't have a nice headshot. Get a good photo on your LinkedIn profile so that, because I see like terrible ones all the time. I see the one with like the hand cut out on the shoulder, and it's clearly like your ex, and you cut them out like, Ugh! It's like hire somebody to take your photo, or use like an app and just take your photo. But so that way, when you meet somebody and you send a connection request after the conference, they're going to see your face and go, oh yeah, that was, in case they forget your name, they'll see your face and remember you, right? Join LinkedIn groups. I've had great success with LinkedIn groups and participating in LinkedIn groups, and I've got a quick LinkedIn group discussion point after this. We talked about this a little bit, but this is one of the LinkedIn groups I'm part of, Friends of LinkedIn. But the important thing here is group statistics. So if you get invited to a group or you're researching groups to join, you only get 50 groups, which is a lot, but you only get 50 groups. And so you need to, by clicking that, if you click group statistics, that's going to give you stats about that group and show you how active it is and show you the types of people that work, the types of people that are in the group, the history of the group, and all sorts of other stuff. Look at that before you join groups, so that way you can tell, are they active, are they worth spending my time? But do join groups for sure. I won't talk about advanced search. Jennifer just explained this really well. I hope you're doing that. This is the generic request that you get on LinkedIn. I get a lot of these, and this is how I read it. Right? Which is why Brian's not accepting your connection request. Sorry, we're all picking on you, man. Write a custom message to remind the person where you met, right? Hey, Christopher, it was a pleasure meeting you at the LinkedIn Live event. I'm following Dave Delaney's suggestion and making sure we connect on LinkedIn. What did you think of his presentation? Isn't he weird? That is a great way for you to send someone a reminder of where you met. So they're like, oh, yeah, look at their headshot. Right, I remember that person. That's going to do you a lot better, right? There is a caveat to this. I love you guys at LinkedIn. There is a caveat to this, which is being worked on. I know this firsthand. But with mobile applications, it's going to send the default connection request as soon as you connect. So just keep that in mind. But that gives you an opportunity to send them an email afterwards to say, hey, I sent you a LinkedIn request. Just wanted to follow up and do it that way. So anybody use Rapportive? Yeah, 1. Wow. 2, 3. Okay, I love Rapportive. LinkedIn acquired them maybe a year ago now. But how this works is that as you're composing somebody's email, this is Gmail, but it works in Outlook too. This panel pops up and shows them all their social profiles and information, recent tweets. Ooh, this is really handy when you're writing, and their LinkedIn profile. So you can actually connect to them through Rapportive as well. So again, I'll have a link to all this stuff after. This is a CRM I use called Contactually. They've got a deal with my podcast, which is at mbnradio.com. But Contactually is a great CRM tool to keep track of your emails and the people, and you put them into buckets, basically, and then it reminds you when you should follow up with folks. But I found it very, very valuable and very handy. So we'll talk about some networking apps very quickly. Evernote. Everybody who's using Evernote here? A lot of you. Okay. So Evernote, there was another app that was Card Munch, which has been swallowed up by Evernote, or I forget how it went. But the long and the short of it is that Evernote now allows you to take a photo of a business card of the person you met, and it uploads to Evernote, but it can also connect to LinkedIn now. And you can send a connection request right through that. Sweet. In the room. Is Rob here? No. A Nashville guy here? Oh, did he? See. In the room is his app. It's pretty new. And what it does is it scans the room to find other people of your LinkedIn contacts that are nearby. Polar vortex? Stuck at an airport for 8 hours? Use that. Find people that are also stuck at the airport and say, hey, saw you're stuck at O'Hare. Let's go grab a beer or coffee, whatever. Refresh. I'm now an advisor for Refresh, but I absolutely love this app. Again, these are all free, by the way. Evernote to an extent. Refresh will give you a dossier the day before you're meeting somebody or that morning. It scans their email address in your calendar, and it sends you an email to say, hey, you're getting together with Jennifer Way today. Here's her recent Facebook updates. Here's her recent tweets that were popular. Here's some posts that she posted on LinkedIn. It says, talk about this, because that tweet or that LinkedIn post got a lot of action. It shows her sports teams she's interested in sometimes. Sometimes it's got religion. Sometimes it's got politics. Depends how much information you have out there. Some of you are thinking, creepy. But this is all public information that you've made available. It's not like digging in. It's not like an NSA thing. Too soon? Yeah. And then LinkedIn Connected, right? LinkedIn Contacts app recently got redeveloped into LinkedIn Connected. And obviously, I hope you guys are using that one. I know I've got to be quiet here in a minute. Very quickly with podcasting. If you're interested, my podcast is mbnradio.com. I started podcasting, as I said, in 2005. Yeah, I love the Ramones. So my wife and I started a podcast in 2005 about parenting. And I met a lot of great people at my first really tech conferences. First conferences really involved with things that I was passionate about. And I met fellow podcasters, and it was just incredible to me. And it was weird, because when you meet friends, your online friends, offline and in person for the first time, it's amazing. It's magical, because you know each other already. You might have poked each other or something, but you know each other. Like, you haven't met in person, though. So anyway, going to this conference going to Podcasters Across Borders, and then the New Media Expo, was just amazing to me and eye-opening to the value of making relationships online and spending time online doing that. With podcasting, I mean, I can tell you offline, but this is like some of the tools. This is all I use to create podcasts where I interview people, and it's dead simple. Okay, this is the end. This is my LinkedIn Live Coffee Challenge that you all have to do. You ready? DaveCoffee.com is going to take you to a LinkedIn group I just made today, or yesterday, I guess. It's a private LinkedIn group for all of you who are willing to take the coffee challenge, and you're all scrambling to do it. Wait for it. So the coffee challenge is this. You have 30 days to have one coffee with one person that you met today. You're really quiet. You're like, I don't know, networking. No, you've got to do it. And so join the group and let me know that you're doing it. By joining the group, other people will join the group, and they will see that you're participating, and they will reach out to you and arrange a coffee, and you can arrange a coffee with the other people. Or you can skip all of this and just do it over beers after this. So recapping very quickly, find and follow your passions. Passions lead to paths. Sorry. Networking is a two-way street. Build it before you actually need it. Attend events. You're doing that right now, right? Find local events. This is all on the website, by the way, which I will give you the link to. Follow up. Follow up. So important. Because, guys, networking leads to great things. All you have to do is ask these guys, Siegfried and Roy, everybody. It's the most ridiculous photo ever. I love it. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man. Thanks.